levels. And let's look at Miles Bridges first. What do you think is going to happen with Miles Bridges?
I thought long and hard about this, and I really wish I had a better answer, but I have no idea. Like, there have been very few rumors one way or another, like what his dollar value will be as a free agent. There have been very little rumors just that allude to whether or not the Hornets as an organization want to bring him back. He has posted on social media of himself wearing Hornets gear and whatnot. He's also only ever played for the Hornets, so it's not like he has, Atlanta Hawks and Washington Wizards and Sacramento Kings gear sitting in his closet. But then again, that could also indicate that he and the team have some sort of mutual interest in coming back. But nobody has really reported all that much that is like concrete information regarding like whether or not one party wants to come back or the other, or have any plans set in stone right now to do so. I have no clue like what his value is going to be as a player. And I like, if you have a guess, I would love to hear it. But his value last summer, like, was probably somewhere north of 20 million or around that range. Anyway, I have no clue like whether or not his value has gone down. Maybe it has gone up in some way because of like the level of player that he is and projects to be. And with the new CBA coming, it's going to be hard for teams to pay more than one or two players. So some team could take a risk on him being that number two player and pay him a lot of money. I just have no clear read on it so far. It has been incredibly difficult for me to like make a decision as to like what I think is going to happen here. It's just such a hard thing to read with how infrequent the like updates have been over the last like year, basically almost exactly a year.
So I would be gobsmacked if Miles Bridges wasn't back in the Charlotte Hornets uniform next year. Now, you talked about what the value would be. That's where I really struggle. I think he's back in Charlotte. I think that's probably almost already agreed. I'm not reporting that. I just, reading the tea leaves, seeing some of the interactions, just judging by how people have and sometimes how they haven't talked about Miles Bridges in media availabilities, I think you can take things away. I wrote an article earlier in the year talking about a Kevin Porter Jr. type contract. So the Kevin Porter Jr. type deal in Houston had a bunch of non-guarantees and team options. So it really protected Houston. They were able to get out of the contract at any point, whenever they wanted. I talked about that being an option. Last season, the reports were that Charlotte were getting ready to pay Miles Bridges near max money. So the idea there, I think, was between 28 to 31 million, something in that range. I can't believe that he is still worth that money. I don't understand how you can be, miss a year of basketball that you haven't seen him play, the off-court troubles that you can come back and get the same contract. I know, like, if you're his agent, you probably try and argue that he's the same player, he's had a year off, he's healthier. I get what you try and do as an agent, but I'm just not buying any of it. You have to have a level of reduction here purely from like the PR point of view and to kind of pay for your sins a little bit. There has to be some punishment. So what I've got down is something in the 20 million per year range, something that hopefully you could maybe extend off if the team wanted to in the future, something that isn't, too low, something that is tradable. But I would have a bunch of non-guarantees, team options. Miles, you're going to have to play well. You're going to have to, keep focused and not have any more off-court distractions, or else the team can essentially move on from you easily at any point. That's how I expect it to play out.
Yeah, see, the one thing that I just think of too is like other teams are absolutely going to have interest in him. Like from the Hornets, I'm sure that they want to bring him back in some regard, but the level of interest that other teams have in him, I think, is going to be much higher than people anticipate.
Really? I disagree.
I think so.
But why? So why? I want to hear why.
Because I think a lot, like, as Hornets fans, we look at it and like the crux of the issue here is like, the locker room. Like, what is that going to do for, a team that has been kind of like going through a lot of these off-court issues and things that showing up in the news for, not basketball reasons over the last year and a half. that doesn't really exist for other teams. Like that's not a problem for, Detroit or something, who was rumored to have very significant interest in him last summer. Like that would just be, it's almost like it's not fully their like PR problem, like in that moment, because the Hornets have much more to explain by signing him, being like to the fan base anyway, not to like the NBA universe, but being like adding that type of like PR thing to their locker room that has already, the fan base has already kind of had these issues over the last kind of years with. The Pistons and any other team that might be interested doesn't have that. And all it takes is offering like a little bit more money with slightly fewer guarantees, or like slightly less restrictive guarantees. And then they would probably just take that, and the Hornets like would be in a pretty tough spot to match that there, I think. But I don't know. It's literally just such a hard situation to read. It's really confusing me.
I think the main difference is that I don't think Miles ever lost the locker room in Charlotte. I don't think
so either. That's all those, but it's the fan perspective or perception thing,
which I understand. But I mean, I think this thing, like ever, me and you sat here and we said this is how it's going to play out, didn't we? All this time we said there's going to be an out-of-court settlement and Miles Bridges end up back in the Hornets. We said that literally week after it all happened. We said we don't know when it's going to happen, but that's probably like the cynic in us. We both thought that was going to happen, and I think that's how it will play out. I think, I don't want to get into too much of the off-court stuff, but, his partner or ex-partner, it's unclear, has now talked about how she wants him to have the opportunity to be back in the NBA. And I think that has changed some of the fan perception now, because suddenly the person who is the victim in this is showing sympathy and saying to fans that they should accept Miles back. And I think for Hornets fans, that gives them a justification in their mind to make it okay again, right? And that's why, like, we're talking hardcore fans, because the casuals aren't following that. But I think that's something that's there. I also think with the selections that the team made, they need some athleticism. They need some rim finishing. Yeah. And I just think he is a really important fit now, next to, like, in between Brandon Miller and in between LaMelo Ball. And if you move him elsewhere, I don't know where you're getting that level of talent back. And I kind of think if you're an external team trying to sign Miles Bridges, like, what if you sign him to a contract, the Hornets match, but then you just fail to sign a player who is coming off a domestic violence charge? I almost wonder if your fans are more likely to reject that as a new fan base than you are as like the existing one where he already is. I don't know, but I think like there's an expectation around the league that Charlotte will re-sign Miles Bridges. There isn't an expectation that Detroit would sign him, so I think it would raise the question more so. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying like how maybe like the media works.
Yeah, I definitely think that's a fair point. I mean, as far as the on-court fit goes for the Hornets, though, you're definitely right. Like, people wanted Scoot Henderson. One of the main reasons people wanted to draft him was for the rim pressure to pair with LaMelo. Miles is that rim pressure guy now. Like, he is among the players that would be in the starting lineup anyway, is probably the best like driver, slasher, like most athletic finisher that can generate a paint touch easier than anybody else. I mean, probably just in the entire lineup at this point. So he is a very important fit. And on top of that, the shot creation flashes he showed, the efficiency went down a little bit the last year that he played. But if he can be a league average 3-point shooter, taking the kind of shots that he was taking in the 21-22 season, along with that rim pressure, very solid wing defense, like that is a really important piece next to LaMelo. And then you'd have two high quality perimeter defenders with him and Brandon Miller, presumably if Brandon Miller pans out in the next couple of years, next to LaMelo. So that alleviates that pressure off of him even further.
An important CBA note to be aware of: in the new CBA, you can sign people to rookie extensions for 5 years, even if it's not for a max, which in the old CBA, it had to be a max. So this is my question. Like, you could sign Miles Bridges for like 5 years, 100 million, which is 20 per year for the next 5 years, which would take I don't even know how old Miles Bridges now. He must be 24, something of that nature.
I think he's 25.
You'd be getting Miles Bridges up to his age 30 season, which maybe I don't love that with someone who's maybe so reliant on athleticism like Miles is. But that's something to keep in mind here. Like, if Charlotte really want to commit to the guy, they can do it for 5 years. I'd be reluctant to do that. For me, I'm thinking something around the 4 years, 80 million mark. A knockdown for the off-court issues, also with some non-guarantees and a team option. That's kind of what I'm predicting will happen. But yeah, I'd be shocked at this point if Miles wasn't back on the team.